Good morning. Good morning. So, this. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. This whole new streaming service that I'm using, still getting used to it. It doesn't always start recording when I hit record. Um, so I have to wait until it tells me it's done. And then I have to go into the 60-minute intro. And then I have to remember to click on my face. Otherwise, you guys get nothing. All right. Well, where are we this morning? Who's here? Who's here? Gail is here. Good morning, Gail. And good morning, Barb. Good morning. Nasheed, good morning. You're going to remember some of the stuff from our class. Cindy made it. Good morning, Cindy. It's so good to see you. So good to see you, Diane. Good morning, Diane, and it's so good to see you. Gail M. Good morning. Gina Butler, hello. All right. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about sewing thread. What I do with it, my notes. So, at Impressions Long Beach, most of you know I took the toolkit um, workshop. Bonnie Nielsen, Joe Kramar, um, Justin Armenta, Eric Campbell. They were all the instructors. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Bonnie's information, what she presented. Today, we're going to talk about Joe Kramer. Oh, did we get some new people in? Oh, look at Letty's here. Good morning, Letty. Good morning, Doug. Oh, what a day this is going to be. Okay, so we're going to talk about, we're just kind of recapping Joe's presentation. I'm not going to teach the class for you. He does a very fine job, and I could never match that. But we are going to touch on some of the things, and I'm going to show you some of the projects I did. Joe's presentation was all about embroidery. Yes, on your embroidery machine using sewing thread. Do you know how strong sewing thread is? Especially industrial sewing thread. That stuff, it's so strong. It's fibrous, so it takes up more space in a sewing field. Um, what else is there? Oh, and it's measured in TEX, TEX. Don't ask me what TEX stands for, but it's measured in TEX. So, and with this measuring system, in our weight system, the larger the number, the narrower the thread. In TEX, the larger the number, the thicker the thread. So when I took this same class last year, um, I came home really excited about this, and I bought an assortment of. I'm so sorry. I bought an assortment of TEX 30, and um, afterwards, after some conversation with Joe, uh, he said, TEX 40. So I bought some 40 too. But for what I was doing today, the TEX 30 worked out fine. And the TEX 30 does have some advantages to it. I'm going to bring up one of his slides. Let's see. I'm going to try to bring up one of his slides. There it is. Let me know if you need me to enlarge this. This is just one of his slides, and it talks about the thread and some of the general settings. This is the thread size that I used, text 30. I also have some text 40. Look at the, can you see this? Um, uh, so this is the text 30. This is the text 40. Can you see how much larger the 40 is from the 30? And if you look, uh, the size of this thread matches the millimeters. Good morning, Jesse. Good to see you. So the one that is closest to the size of our standard embroidery thread, this is a 40 weight thread here, is the text 30. And with the text 30 and the 40, you don't necessarily need to change, sorry, cat's sitting on my notes. You don't necessarily need to change your needle, but of course, if you're using a thicker thread, you're going to want to use a larger needle. Did Scott just come in? Good morning, Scott. Good to see you. Scott was in this class. So you don't necessarily need a larger needle for the Tex 30. In fact, the samples that I'm going to show you today, I used my standard 7511 needle. Okay, machine settings. Oh, I wanted to show you another, a closer picture of the thread. This is the actual thread I used. Let me get rid of this one. Get rid of this one. I made my own little thread card. Here it is. I know, you can't really see me. It's just a business card with some thread wrapped around it. This is my standard 40 weight thread. You see all the gaps between this? If I were to use this thread, I would have to tighten up the density here. Now, yes, in my text 30 sample here, I would need to tighten up the density also, but not as much because the fibers are going to take up some space and they're going to make it look fuller, more filled in. And since we're here talking about thread, let me pull it up. This is where I got my thread. Look at the price of this. This is what is this? This is 1,000 yards of thread for $2.75. And all these colors. Look at all the colors. Yeah. Lots of great thread in here. I'll put a link in my my notes on the YouTube. I got a dog here. Hold on. She knows I'm talking to everybody. Thank you, Scott. I like my sample card too. So yeah, this is where I got the thread. It's Aman's Saba all-purpose poly wrapped poly core thread. That was the important part. If you go to buy sewing thread for this type of project, make sure it has a poly cord. It can be a cotton wrap, but it needs to be a poly core. Remember that. All right, let's bring this down. We can get rid of the thread card. Um, so, and before we go on to this, let me just mention the machine settings. For this text 30 and the text 40, the information we had was that the machine settings did not necessarily need to be changed. Of course, you're going to want to do all of your own test stitching to see how things work for you. With the text 40, I can see Evelyn Warner. Good morning. Evelyn's in Orlando. What's the temperature down there? We're sitting at 24 degrees here. just so you know. I'm not going outside today. So my machine, I did not change any of the settings, though with the thicker threads, I can see opening up the tension to allow it to flow better. Now remember, you're gonna, oh, and I slowed down the machine. I slowed my machine from my typical 900 stitches, 900 to 1,000 stitches per minute. I slowed it down to 700. Evelyn's at Evelyn's at 69. 69 would be nice. I can live with 69 for a while. So I did slow down the speed of the machine. Now, when it comes to production, yes, you're going to slow the machine down. But because you're using sewing thread and your density is a little more open, it's going to stitch faster. It'll stitch at about the same time as your 9 to 1,000 stitches per minute. So let's see. I got my notes and I got my cats. Okay, so here's my next piece. And I don't know how well you're going to see this, but I'm going to show it anyways. This was my first test piece. This was tested using a t-shirt, because that was my ultimate fabric, project fabric, and normal machine settings. 40, oops, can't see that. These fills were done at a .40 density. I didn't change, this is my standard machine settings. I did not change the density. Evelyn, that's you? I met Evelyn yesterday on Two Regular Guys when they were talking about what you used to do and what you do now, what things have changed in your niche. Welcome, Evelyn. I'm glad to see you here. Okay, so going back to this. This is my standard settings. I decided, and because this technique uses a tear and wash stabilizer, I also washed this because I wanted to see what the after wash results would be. And I was so impressed. The only place where stabilizer stayed is under the stitching. Everything else washed away. And the reason that's important is that because it gives you a really nice, soft feel to the t-shirt. You know, one of the things I say, I'm so sorry. One of the things, I don't care for embroidery on t-shirts, especially big designs like what we're going to show today. And that's because it's too heavy for the shirt. The stabilizer you have to use is too heavy. Makes everything feel weighted down. But using this tear and wash, it leaves a really nice light feel. Okay, so this was my first one. I decided I really didn't like using a whole fill for this design file, and you'll see these designs in just a minute. So I wanted to open up the density. I didn't like how tight the density was on my lettering here. I got it, where did I get it? I got it from, sorry, let me go back and pick this up. Scott wants to know where I got the tear and wash stabilizer. It was hard to find, but I found it at the TexMac Direct website. I've got enough to last me a long time, but I found it, and that's where I found it. Okay, so I was not thrilled with the stitch out. I was okay with the way it washed out, but I wanted to change the look. So I opened up the densities. and I tried it again. Yeah. Now those on the back, I did not wash these, but I was getting closer. I was much happier with the density selection here and on my other two designs, which I'm going to show you now. Ultimately, I wanted it to be just a little bit more open, so I took it from a dot 60. I believe it was a dot 60. Maybe it was a dot 50. This one, let me just double check. I know you don't get to see what I'm doing yet. All right. I took them from a dot 50 to a dot 60 in the density. Okay. So, t-shirt fabric, Tex 30 sewing fabric, 7511 needle, tear and wash stabilizer. That was my recipe. This this is the design I'm wearing. Let me see. Where do we want to see? Do we want to see the design? There we are. This is the design. I found some graphic t-shirts at my local Five Below. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Five Below. Five Below is just another dollar store with a $5 maximum kind of thing. But I found some graphic t-shirts. Sorry, Bella wanted to come up and say hi. She's got to go to school here in a minute. So Mr. McKee will be coming in to carry her away. So I found some t-shirts at the Five Below, and they inspired what I put on them. For example, again, this is the one I'm wearing. It was the Sunset Hotel, and what you can't read is that it's in California. So my first thought was the Eagles, Hotel California, and my favorite line, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. That was the inspiration for this t-shirt. Now, granted, one of the things that I probably should have done was I probably should have had more contrast between my colors. Um, but if you look at the album cover, it's supposed to give sort of a neon look. So again, maybe a more contrast in my colors. But I really like the way it's stitched. And honestly, like I said, I'm wearing it. It is a great guitar solo, Evelyn. Absolutely, absolutely correct. Of course, I'm a child of the 70s, so it's one of my favorite albums too. Oh, Scott, Mashit said you might be able to find that tear and wash at All Stitch. Give it a look. Um, so yeah, and I'm wearing this shirt. It's very comfortable. It does not feel heavy. It does not feel itchy. There is no stabilizer back there. I mean, there's stabilizer under the threads, but there's nothing back there. Let's go on to the next shirt. I also found, where to go, a shirt that had a snake on it. And my first thought, my inspiration for this piece was the year of the snake. You do know that this is we just had the Chinese New Year about a month ago, and this is the year of the snake. So what did I do? Took me a little research, but um, I found Chinese writing to read Year of the Snake, Happy New Year. or New Year's celebration. I forget exactly what it reads, but that's the, that's the message. And again, I used a more open density. Here's here's the shirt here. Of course, um, in the Chinese culture, red is a very lucky color. So I used red. I'm excited to wear this one. I can hardly wait. The next shirt I did, um, thanks. They do look good and they feel great too. Um, the next shirt I did a little, sorry, did a little mixed media. Of course, these are all mixed media, but this one I printed the graphic, and then, of course, being a child of the 70s, keep on trucking. How many of you are old enough to know this one? I know this one. And I had started out with a fully colored filled piece. But again, even at the more open density, I just felt it was too much. So I backed off. Yay, me too. I backed off and did just the black border of this piece. Gail's got two. Yeah, Letty, he's always been one of my favorites. Um, so yeah, um, so yeah, I digitized him and then I just sized him up so that he fits on the shirt. Here's the shirt. Of course, don't laugh. I placed my keep on trucking a little bit too far to the left, so it's a little off center. Oh, you can't see it. Hold on. Let me get out of the way here. So it's a little off center, but I moved the guys over a little bit to help offset that. Yeah. Again, can't wait to wear it. I like this technique for t-shirts, especially graphic t-shirts, especially making it a mixed media t-shirt. I like the combinations. You thought the placement was good? Thank you. Um, like I said, I like the mixed media because it gives you some dimension to your graphic message, something that just the graphic print alone can't do, but that the embroidery on the t-shirt does do. Okay, so let's go back to our screen. We're going to close that down, going to close that down, going to close that down, and so ultimately, like I said, I changed the density. This, oh, this one's at a dot 60. Um, these are all stitched with sewing thread, the Tex 30 sewing thread, all stitched with the 7511 needle. They are all stitched. Oh, I forgot to mention the standard bobbin thread. And because I really liked the, what did Joe call it? He called it um, vintage. I really liked the vintage look. I opened up that density. Now, the Hotel California, it looks like I opened it up to a dot 60, but everybody else is at a dot 70. Come on, you gotta go down now. There you go. So everybody else is at a dot 70. And again, I just love the way it's stitched out. Here's our trucking guy. Now, he's at a .70 also, and he looks a little bit more open, but again, he's got that vintage look. Let me go back here. What does Letty say? I'm going to have to try that stabilizer. That is one thing with t-shirts that would help lighten it up. I can, oh my gosh, Miami Vice on a t-shirt. Would that not be awesome? When I said opening it up, I'm talking about the density. Here, let's go back to our year of the snake, and let's zoom in on this part here. Where'd it go? To the selected. Let's bring you into the shot. Okay, so that's a .70. We're going to change this. Here's our standard 40 weight, our standard 40 um, density. For the look I was going for, I still thought it was too heavy, even though with a Tex 30 you don't necessarily have to change the density. You're going to want to test this out. And then I bumped up to a 60, and that was better, but still not quite the look I was going for. So I opened it up some more and went to a 70. Does that help, Gail? And I really did like the the thing about using, let me pull that up again. Let me come back up here myself. Yeah, because I was using sewing thread, I have to tell you, one of the things that I decided was to use an edge run underlay. Yes, Gail, the higher the number, the less density. Um, my underlay, let's go back to this section right here. I used an edge run underlay and a zigzag. The reason for that, and I'm going to use some thread here to identify this for you. This is the edge run. And remember, we're working with a t-shirt, so there's not a lot of weight to a t-shirt. And we're working with a satin stitch. Satin stitch is going to pull in, right? It's going to pull in. And what's going to do is it's going to cause that t-shirt to curl. You're pulling it tighter, just like cinching the shoelaces on your runners. It's going to tighten things up, and it's going to curl the fabric. The edge run underlay, and we're just going to use a manual stitch now, works like the Carla. Hello, is it Carla? Klara. Hello, welcome. We're just getting to some of the finer points of this. Of course, it's being recorded. It'll be available on the YouTube. So going back to the edge run underlay, think of it like railroad tracks. Okay, railroad tracks are spaced so that the wheels on the train sit on those tracks and prevent the wheels from going outside the tracks or falling inside the tracks. So that's exactly what our edge run underlay is doing here. It's keeping the stitches on the rail so it doesn't fall off. All right, so it's going to keep them on the rail so that it follows that line and does not pull in so much and curl. Where'd that go? Let's see. So yes, I used an edge run underlay. Um, with the filled areas here, yes, I used an edge run and a tatami. Again, for the same reason, I wanted to make sure those stitches stayed on the rails. Now, of course, with your really narrow stitch line, let me just change the color of this one, bring it up, enlarge it. This line is only 1.5 millimeters wide. It's not going to handle an edge run very well. So yes, that one stayed with a center run. And on the actual stitch out, this particular part of the leg, yeah, I know you can't see it, but you'll run your test um, and you'll see that the center run underlay was enough for that particular piece. Oh, Letty, nice. Letty has let me bring myself up in here. Letty has a white toner printer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but the white toner printer is a great tool when you need one or two uh, transfers, full color transfers that will only take minutes. So if you don't have access to a DTF, direct to film printer, or you only need prints on occasion, the white toner printer is a great tool. It allows you to make that one or two prints as needed, and then the machine can sit for 6 months and you can come back to it. You can't do that with a DTF printer. It needs daily maintenance. The white toner printer, maybe after 6 months, the worst thing you need to do is pull the toner cartridge out, rock it back and forth a couple of times to loosen up the toner and put it back in. Um, but it would make some great uh, graphics for t-shirts. Yeah, that is exciting. Letty, if you do this, I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Again, I will put a link in the uh, in my show notes to let you know where I got the thread. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. Any questions? Anybody? Questions? I'm here. Gonna have a bit of coffee. What's on everybody's plans today? I have 52 hats I need to get stitched. Yeah, I do. I don't do a lot of production, but this is one I got. Oh, thank you, Cindy. It might be, I know you do a lot of production, Cindy, and I know it's a lot of um, client, customer based production. And there probably isn't a lot of time in your role, but maybe take a look and see if you couldn't do something a bit fun and maybe present it as an option to some of your people. You might want to use a couple of layers of tearaway, Letty. And my biggest fear with tearaway is it's going to take all of the stabilizer out from under your thread. And that's why we use stabilizer, is to give the thread support. Just a thought. Jesse, thank you very much for being here today. Hi, Gail. Gail, I do have in Brilliance, but honestly, I don't do a lot with it. I can probably help if you've got some questions. Um, so send me a message. Let me know. I will do everything I can to help. Thank you, Diane. So glad to see all of you here. Hat embroidery, you're right, Scott. Hat embroidery pays the bills. And sometimes I can get creative there. Thank you, Cindy. Yay! Shop's been slow, but used the time to get taxes together to submit, now focusing on getting rid of those bunnies. Tis the season. There's always a season. Send me an email, Gail. Send me an email. All right, everybody. I think that's it. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email. Don't hesitate to send me a message. Ask anytime. If I don't have an answer specific, I will help you find an answer specific. Um, you're welcome, Gina. Try that sewing thread. I think you'd be really impressed. Okay, I'm going to go hit this other button here. Wish me luck. Fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quicktostitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.